Okay, portion 2 of this lesson talks about anthropology's unique approach. So we've discussed how anthropology is the study of humans. You might be wondering what makes anthropology different from other fields like history or psychology or other fields in the humanities or social sciences. One thing to remember is that anthropology is not the same as paleontology, which is the study of prehistoric non-human life. As I said earlier, in order for there to be anthropology, humans or humanity must be the topics studied. So there's a common misconception that anthropologists study dinosaurs and other ancient mammals. This is not the case. Certain types of archaeologists do become familiar with animal remains. They're called zooarchaeologists. So let's just say a site, an archaeological site with prehistoric human and animal remains, like maybe a mammoth or something, would be studied by a zooarchaeologist, which is an anthropologist who specializes in the study of animal remains within an archaeological context. So most likely a zooarchaeologist would be spending a lot of time studying animals that were butchered or cooked, things like that. That's just one example. But for it to be archaeology, humans have to have been involved, which is why I mentioned the butchering and the cooking. Those are cultural activities that humans would have been doing, and that would make it archaeological. Another thing to remember is that anthropology is not just the study of bones. However, the study of human bones is involved in the anthropological field of biological anthropology. Even more specifically, forensic anthropology would often involve the study of human bones. Anthropology is not just the study of arrowheads or stone tools, but this is involved in the field of archaeology. Anthropology is not just the study of quote-unquote exotic people who live in the nude. Anthropologists are interested in human societies all over the world, including their own societies. As I mentioned earlier, you might be wondering how anthropology is different from other disciplines like history or religious studies. And there are many distinguishing characteristics that make anthropology anthropology. One is that anthropology is holistic. We usually refer to holism as talking about a holistic medicine, but holism actually just means the study of the whole of the human condition, past, present, and future, biological, social, language, cultural. Therefore, in anthropology, all aspects of humanity and human culture, from cuisine to environment to biology or politics and economics, are studied. This makes anthropology very multidisciplinary, relying on many different fields of study. Anthropology is also contextual. Context is the circumstances and facts which surround and give meaning to something. Similar to the holistic perspective, contextuality means that anthropologists seek to view humanity in context. This often means that anthropologists will also study the history, ecology, geology, etc., related to the people they are studying. Anthropologists seek to set up an accurate background for their studies of humanity. Later in this class, you'll notice that we cover geography, climate, and history of each society or culture that we study in order to view them in context. Anthropology is unique because it is both humanistic and scientific. It is often called the most humane of the sciences and the most scientific of the humanities. So, anthropology is humanistic, which means that it's more perhaps interpretive or analytical. Many fields of anthropology will use methods such as these in contrast to the exclusively empirical methods of the hard scientists. These methods seek mainly qualitative data, which is non-statistical information, as opposed to quantitative data. Anthropology's involvement with people of all times and places allows anthropologists to gain a wealth of information relevant to the humanities, such as language studies, religious studies, history, music, art, and literature. So aspects of humanity that are hard to quantify. But anthropology is also scientific. Many fields of anthropology involve the measurements and empirical data that make up quantitative data. So anthropology is also a science which relies on empirical data, Empirical means based on observations of the world rather than on speculation or intuition. It also means things that we can measure with our senses. So we observe things with our senses and measure them with our senses. Those types of data, empirical data, that are measurable and observable are what is used in the scientific method. As well, anthropologists also often begin with a hypothesis or a research question and gather various kinds of data in order to ground these explanations and develop theories. Scientific research is conducted in many diverse fields or areas within anthropology. So, quick review, anthropology studies all people. Most people think that anthropologists study non-industrial, non-Western cultures, and many of them do, and we'll be focusing on a lot of non-industrial, non-Western cultures in this class. But anthropology is much more than the study of these people. It's a comparative field that examines all societies, ancient and modern, simple and complex, local and global. Anthropology offers a unique cross-cultural perspective by constantly comparing the customs of one society with those of others. Let's quickly distinguish between society and culture. I often use these terms interchangeably. A lot of times when we study different societies across the globe, we call those world cultures. So it's important to remember that societies are groups of people. People live in societies, as do other animals. There are other social animals like baboons, wolves, mole rats, and even ants. Human society is a group of people who interact, intermarry, and share a language and culture. Culture is a little bit more human than society. Cultures are traditions and customs transmitted through learning that form and guide the beliefs and behavior of the people exposed to them. So culture is the system of shared and learned behaviors in a society. So you can't have a society without a group of people, and every society has a culture. All right, the next few slides of this lesson list the 5 fields of anthropology. In parts 3 and 4 of this lesson, we will dive into those different fields. So the 5 fields of anthropology. So the more traditional approach is a 4-field approach. These days, we often talk about a 5th field, and I'll tell you about that. So the 4-field approach is kind of designed to cover, all aspects of humanity, to be holistic and to put humanity in many different contexts, accurate contexts, including biological context, material, linguistic, and cultural. This semester, if you are in a cultural anthropology class, obviously we're going to be discussing living cultures, not cultures of the past. The 4 traditional fields include biological, also called physical anthropology, archaeology, linguistic anthropology, cultural anthropology. And now there is another field called applied anthropology, which is kind of a new 5th field of anthropology that uses any of the above fields. So it's kind of part of all the 4 traditional fields, but we recognize it as a separate field as well. That's why I say that anthropology has 4, sometimes 5 fields or subfields. So here you are again. The 5 fields of anthropology include biological anthropology, linguistic anthropology, archaeology, cultural anthropology, and applied anthropology.